Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Curt.
Welcome to the Being HUMN podcast. This is episode number 3, where we share real-world stories and insights to help companies and organizations better connect with their customers and grow their business, really, through clear and effective marketing.
That's right. Connecting deeply with humans.
Awesome. And today we welcome Josh Barker, CEO of City Innovations and founder of Traction Labs, with us as our guest. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks, guys. Excited to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah. We thought it would be a great experience to share the process of going through a brand script session. And that's what we're going to focus on today. And we met with Josh last week to kind of walk through this for Traction Labs. And so we're excited to kind of get his experience and also actually share his brand script with him live.
Yeah. I was baptized by brand.
That's right. Absolutely.
Are you excited?
I'm super excited.
So you have not seen the brand script that we put together.
You put it in front of me, and I've literally turned it over, and so
Okay.
I'm excited to look at it.
Very disciplined. of
Yes.
you. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
Well, let's start by just telling us a little bit about what Traction Labs is at a high level,
Yeah.
and then kind of where you were struggling with some of your messaging.
Yeah, and maybe I'll start even with City Innovations,
Yeah.
because one of the things that City Innovations has kind of launched out a few other brands, and so one of the things that we're looking to do is really add some clarity to what Traction Labs is. But Traction Labs overall is an agency that focuses on helping companies get traction. And usually the focus is on people that have something new they're bringing to market. Their market's being disrupted. They need new techniques that maybe previous techniques didn't work, or the new thing they're bringing to market is changing things fundamentally. It's changing the game.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you get quick early traction, kind of that early space 0 to 1? And so that's what Traction Labs is.
Awesome.
That's sweet.
So the name works really well then.
Yes, exactly.
So how did you get to a point where you knew that you needed to start Traction Labs?
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of the services, that's a different question than the actual like rollout of the company. So like the City Innovations has always traditionally done traction-based work, in the 0 to 1 space, helping people bring new things to market. But really, when we started rolling out other new ventures, like one of them is we're sitting in the studio. This is part of Think Tank. We needed some way to differentiate brands now. Now we're adding a lot more different brands all the way around. So Traction Labs became a natural, what we do in terms of consulting, and we've historically done, we should create a new brand around it. So that's effectively what Traction Labs is. And but high level, where it came from was I was out in Silicon Valley for 3 years and realized, we started a software company. High level, we realized we're different than a software company because a lot of our customers are like, a lot of what we talk about is go to market.
Right.
Like I realize you're not, that's a little bit unique for a software development company. Right. And so that's where Traction Labs came from.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges you're having communicating or explaining what you do to potential clients?
Yeah, I think it's whenever you're creating a new brand, there's how do you position it in the marketplace? How do you talk about it? How do you think about it in terms of? And I love how you guys framed it. And this is sneak peeking a little bit for the audience. Is like in terms of the hero's journey, right? I'm a big fan of the hero's journey, and so how do you put the customer as the hero of the story versus myself? So and our team, and so that's one of the things I think the biggest thing was positioning. How do you position it? And really I'm a big proponent of what you guys do too, because I know that positioning and clear marketing is a big difference. It's the difference between getting traction and not getting traction using our word, right? So it's like you could get traction and because people are like, I understand what that means. Yes, I resonate with that. Or I have no idea what you do, and that's where we are right now, when we're creating this new brand. I think the market is looking at it going, what is this new brand? What is it about? And so we want to make sure we get it right. And that leads to this conversation.
Awesome.
There's something I think super important about what you have been saying under the surface and actually directly too, in terms of when you are offering something unique and then you have an idea or even a capability to offer something that's also unique, but not as directly connected, how important it is to separate those in a certain way rather than to try to find an umbrella language for both, which tends to obfuscate each one of them. So I mean, we've worked with clients before, had a conversation with a nonprofit that was really focused on one particular thing. And then they came to us with the challenge of, we're wanting to do this very dramatically different thing with a completely different audience. How do we tell the story of both? And we had to tell them, you can't.
Right.
You're going to lose both of your audiences.
Yes.
It's confusing.
If you do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was a big epiphany when I was doing it with you guys of that. I tend to do that as an entrepreneur, right? As an entrepreneur, I have a lot of ideas and I'm like, oh, this idea connects with this idea. I feel like I'm in a room with you've seen those murder board scenes with the string and like I'm tying it. I'm like, all this comes together.
It's a mind map.
Yeah. And you're like, that's horrible. Just do this. And I'm like, but it's this, so
There's so much more.
So that was really useful to, you guys, we went through the process for you guys to bring that level of clarity. So, and I think one of the things that's difficult too is, it's interesting. Sometimes you can define something by what it's not. And so I think I even started the session by like, well, we're not a product company and we're not a marketing company. We're not an innovation company. We're actually like all three of those. And so how do you tell that story effectively without losing each, having people understand clearly what's the differentiator and what you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously we hadn't worked with you or, gone through this. What did you have any expectations or did you
I walked in with nothing other than I knew you were nice people.
That's great.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. Hopefully our representation did precede us.
Yes.
In that sense. We'll get into the brand script in a minute, but what were some kind of ahas or what surprised you, going through the session?
Yeah, I think one of the things I appreciate as an entrepreneur with a lot of different ideas is I actually appreciate someone taking a little bit of a weed whacker and saying like, that's trim off this fat, trim off this fat, trim off this fat. And then it kind of brings clarity when you start trimming and trimming and trimming and you go, no, this is clearly what it is, right? So that was a helpful, I think that's, I'd say holistically, the 50,000 foot view, that's probably the biggest value add you guys provided is clarity, right? People walk in and they think they have it clear, like this level of clear. And you're like, well, we're talking about a laser, right? So, and someone told me, I think this is great, is they said, you can take a flashlight and you can flash it around the room, but with the same energy, you can actually use a laser and you can actually cut through things, right?
Yes.
And so it's like, that's what I mean by laser is like laser focused where it actually provides utility and it's useful. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly who I want, what the target is and all that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work, I think, to develop that kind of laser in thinking. A lot of people, when they're left to their own, try to figure out how do I include as much of the customer's wants as I can, or how do I
do
include
that on their website?
Exactly. And the challenge there is that you only get a little amount of time to create that impression. And if you do the hard work of figuring out what is going to be most compelling for you to say to them in terms of what your understanding is that they want and the problem that they have related to it, they're going to be engaged. They're going to want to learn more versus it being too broad and really distracting them in a way that's confusing and leads them to just shut that down.
Yeah. I feel like that, what came to my mind is like someone told me that riches are in the niches, right? So that's kind of what you're saying, where it's like, hey, if someone can look at some marketing and some brand and say, that's for me, and the quicker you can do that,
They get me.
And the quicker you can even tell people that's not for me, that's great, So that's tough to get to. So
It's tough to do on your own too, because you don't want to eliminate people, especially when you're starting out, right?
Oh, 100%.
You're like, well, let's start as broad as we can and then figure it out. But I think sometimes there's value in narrowing that focus, so it's very clear.
I think that's exactly right. Like the value, I think one other value you guys provide is the fact that we consider ourselves at Traction Labs. Actually, a lot of what we talk about is marketing, right? Is like, how do you get traction? Because a lot of it's in the messaging, on market. We want to get market traction. So is it the right message? Is it the right ICP? Is it the right person? But like no matter, even if we're a marketing company, we're in an echo chamber about our own brand, right? So it's like,
right.
we're like, oh, this is great, right? We love it. And it's like, well, okay, well, you need to get outside of yourselves. So having a third party person come in that's unassociated to be like, no, this is probably not as clear as you think it is. It's like, that's very helpful.
No, we've actually just been going through that process ourselves. We've been around for about 6 months, and it's easy to get fall in love with your own words. And so
That's right.
Going through that process of taking a step back and like, wait, let's apply our approach to ourselves and how we're positioning our business, and we're going through the process right now of like, are we communicating the right thing? Or is it the right problem we're solving, and evaluating that constantly? So I think that's the other thing with this is, we'll go through the brand script, but this is a living document too.
Yeah.
And so as you evolve, as you get more context or test this with customers,
Yes.
I think being open to tweaking it and evaluating it along the way is the other part of it, to say it's not something you do once and set in stone and move on. It's a living document. You need to constantly be reevaluating, are we on track, and having those touch points with customers is super critical.
Yeah. They say in when we talk about product, because my background's product, and it's like no product survives first impact with customers. I feel like that's true for brands.
Yeah.
No brand survives first impact with customers, because they're going to tell you, and they'll be like, this is
That's
confusing.
really what your brand is.
Yes.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, for some of you who may be listening for the first time, Rob and I use a StoryBrand plus human-centered design approach in order to help businesses gain that kind of clarity. And you can learn more about us at our website, gowithhuman, HUMN.com.
Yeah, that's right there on the
It is. That's right.
That's perfect.
Gowithhuman.com.
Spelled right here for us.
Yes, spelled right there.
So before we get into the brand script, I'll also just summarize quickly that StoryBrand is a marketing approach that you mentioned before, uses the hero's journey. So a lot of businesses or organizations will get so excited about what they have to offer that they put themselves first as the hero. It's understandable. They love the product that they have. They love the team or the service that they provide. And yet loving what you do does not automatically connect with your customer. So what we do is we use that hero's journey where we say a character wants something and it results and there's a problem that they have. They can't get what they want. And so they are looking for help. In their dire, desperate circumstance, right? No story is super compelling unless it's dire, desperate. There's a very clear conflict, right? So only then do you position your business or organization as the guide, but you have to do that in a way that says, we get you. Like, we understand how frustrating this is. So there's an empathy component and an authority component. And once someone hears that you actually get them and have authority to help them, they're willing to listen to the plan that you have. And so the StoryBrand process then goes to, what is that plan? And we simplify it down to 3 easy steps that has a direct call to action. And then we clarify what success looks like if they follow that plan, or what failure looks like if they do nothing. Because I think during our brand script session, you said it well. The definition of insanity is continuing to do what you're doing and expecting a different result. So we have to be clear with our customer, our client, that unless you're actually putting that out there, what failure looks like, the risk reward is all thrown out. Right. So that is the StoryBrand process. And what we did with you over 90 minutes, looking at each one of those sections and really, like you said, knocking off the fat, like slicing off the fat, getting down to what is the most compelling.
And that's, I think, challenging. You said as a positive, but I think it's also challenging for a lot of people to get that focus, because I think you do fall in love with all the things you can help people with. And I think narrowing that down, getting that laser focused is a valuable exercise, even though it might be painful.
Very much so.
A super important point related to that is you can tell all of those things, but you can't tell them all at once. So the brand script, the initial clear message that you're bringing is one that invites them into conversation. And that conversation will allow you to share more, but you don't want to just dump on people and have them try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And honestly, like as we were going through this brand scripts session with you, I think both of us were impressed in terms of the level of clarity you do have on certain things. From our standpoint, it was more a matter of tying these things together into a cohesive whole and maybe refining a few things. So I'm excited for you to see what we actually came out with.
Yeah.
Let's jump in.
A disclaimer would be there could be things that are not correct in here.
Yes.
And
messy.
that's part of this process. When we do a brand script session with someone, we explain up front, and we did with you, that there's the brand script session, and then we share a draft. And
That's what this is. Yeah.
the draft review is really a chance for you to interact with the script and say what works, what doesn't feel quite right, or if there's missing information. This really gives you the chance to share it back to us in a way where we can refine it.
Yeah. It's good.
Let's dive in.
So if it's wrong, these tables are detached.
Yeah,
I can
you
just
flip it.
Just
Yeah.
flip it. That's right.
Might not work for the editor, but
That's right.
awesome.
So we're going to get started. You can flip it over.
Can I look?
You
Yeah.
can
Oh,
look
man.
at
Okay.
it.
Just the first page.
Just this.
Yeah.
Just the
Okay.
first
Just
page.
this. I'm on this. Okay.
So for those of you who are watching or listening, what we're looking at now is the brand script, and this is broken out by component. We also will be reviewing a brand script narrative that basically takes each of these components and puts it into more of a story form.
I always say it's like the voiceover of your brand video.
Yeah.
That's right.
Nice.
Think of
Nice.
James Earl Jones, reading this. That would be great.
Man, I'd like to get that. Yeah, that'd be good.
And then the third thing we'll look at is a one-liner. The one-liner takes three components from the brand script and puts them together in a way that makes a very succinct explanation of who you are and why it matters for people.
Nice.
Awesome.
Cool.
Let's go.
Here we go. All right. So we're starting with the character. And from our conversations, we really brought it down to the character that you're wanting to engage is a mid-market and above CEO who needs. Now, we changed this to needs because it was so urgent.
Yeah.
Normally, it's who wants something. But in this case, who needs to increase revenue ASAP.
Yeah. That's accurate. Yep. Yeah, that we change it to needs because it's definitely there's high emotions associated with this.
And urgency. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Now, this character who needs to increase revenue ASAP has a big problem. Their product isn't selling. So
Simple as that.
it's as simple as that. There could be a lot of other problems. My team isn't doing something that I think they need to be doing, or there's confusion about what our product is. But at the end of the day, the external problem is that the product is not selling, and that's connected directly to the want. So both the characters' want and the problem that they have, it doesn't talk about you yet. This is really important. It's talking about them, and it's saying, we know that you need to increase revenue ASAP, but the problem that you have is your product isn't selling.
Yep.
Now, there's an internal part of this problem too. On the face level, the product isn't selling, but internally what's happening is that CEO is becoming desperately frustrated.
Yeah.
So it's that deep feeling that we want to be able to identify. Now, there could be a lot of other feelings too. I mean, you mentioned...
We talked about a lot of them. Yeah.
That's right. What were some of those?
I think being alone, angry.
Yeah. No one understands me.
Yes.
That sort of thing. Yep. And there's
right.
a lot of reasons why the product isn't selling, right? Their market shifted.
Could be a lot.
They're- It's a new product, whatever it is.
That's right.
Yep.
So all of those are legitimate. And normally in human experience, we don't experience singular emotions. Like
Yes.
it's usually a little potpourri of emotions going on, but this seems to be the most compelling emotion to identify. And philosophically, this problem and this feeling are all so wrong because the CEO believes a product and team like ours should be killing it.
Yeah,
They've
absolutely.
hired the team.
Yes.
More likely,
They hired the
right?
team. They're very deeply involved in some of the product, the feedback, and the development of it. So yeah, absolutely.
And I think we talked about this too. I think initially they don't think the product is the problem
Yeah. Yep.
itself. And so I think that's where that philosophically, this is a great product. We have a great team. You know,
Yes.
why isn't it selling? Right. That's that coming together. So
It's interesting. There's parallels too to what you guys had mentioned about, sometimes we marry ourselves to the brand and we think the brand is like, oh, this is my brand. I love it. It's like hard to disconnect from it. In our world, when we look at the product, the problem, that's a lot of what is experienced too, right? There's a lot of, it's like a baby, right? It's like, this is my baby.
don't tell me my baby's ugly.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
With the character and the problem very clear there, now we're able to look at the character meeting the guide. So in our sessions, we talked a lot about different statements that you've shared with a CEO. Oh, it's hard to feel alone. It's so frustrating when your team isn't doing the things that you think they should be doing. But at the end of the day, what we were hearing most clearly from you is, and this has to be connected with the other parts as well. It's tying into that feeling that the CEO has of being desperately frustrated. And that's a scary feeling. So we've put together this little phrase. We get how scary it is, or it can be, to not get the sales you need, but not know why.
Yeah. That really is the core. It gets to the core because if they knew why, it wouldn't be as scary because they could say, let's
plan.
They have a plan. Here's the plan. Here's how we do it. But oftentimes we meet them in that moment of, I don't know what to do.
We've tried
10
everything,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Nothing's working.
Exactly.
So in refining something like this, it's entirely possible that we could bring in desperately frustrating instead of scary to maybe tie it a little tighter. But at the end of the day, that is a legitimate fear that comes out of that desperate frustration. Is that?
Yeah. And I think one thing to say about this brand script, I think a lot of people miss the empathy a lot of times. They identify the problem, connect with the customer, they jump right to solution.
Yeah.
And like, okay, you're feeling this way? Here we go.
It's
I think then they miss that connection that you can have with the customer so that they're in the right mind to listen to your solution. I think people skip over that a lot, and that's where maybe they just jump to the cost or, okay, I'm evaluating all these problems. I don't have a lot of time to like truly understand what's unique about your solution. I'm just going to look, okay, well, is it going to cost me? And how long is it going to take, right? They skip over that piece and you miss, I think, that connection with the human you're talking to. At the end of the day, these are people. And I think any of us in any relationship, if people truly take the time to understand where you're coming from and have empathy for you, you're gonna take the time to listen to what they have to say.
Shows you genuinely care.
Absolutely.
It's like my wife, saying, my day was really hard. Here's how it was. But really all I'm thinking about is like, here's the 5-step plan you need to follow. And it's like, and you're like, she's like, shut up. I just wanted to talk to you. It's like, so your customer might not even be ready yet. They just want to know you understand, you care.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you demonstrate, even in your messaging, that you're listening,
Yeah.
they feel trust.
Yep. That's right. Yep.
And that's hard to get.
It is. It is really the trust. I mean, business is built on trust. So if you miss the trust, you miss the opportunity.
Yeah. So trust also relates to authority, and the authority pieces that we picked up. And now these can be leveraged in a number of different ways, depending on who specifically you're talking with in whatever marketing you're doing. But at the end of the day, the authority that you bring to this character is that you have a certain experience, you, Josh, and it has to do with Silicon Valley insights. And there's a proven approach that goes across industries Showing those logos, I think, demonstrates that authority. But that proven approach exists that has helped different companies achieve sales traction in as little as 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yep.
I think the authority piece is important too, because I think, obviously you can have empathy for somebody, but can they trust that you actually know what you're talking about,
Yes.
right? You think about, a Sherpa, like, well, have you been up this hill before, this mountain before, right?
Yes.
Like, and talk about all their experience of, hiking. But I think that's where that comes in, to balance out that empathy, to say, okay, can I trust this person with my problem?
How can you guide someone if you haven't been there?
Right.
That's what's hard.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. So if they experience that empathy and authority, then you give them a plan. And the plan that we came out with is 3 steps. They schedule a meeting, and the explanation of scheduling a meeting is, let's grab lunch and talk right away. Again, this ties back to they need to increase revenue ASAP.
Yeah.
So you're tapping into the urgency by saying, let's talk right away. The second step is help us create your custom plan. And then the explanation for that is we'll have it ready within 1 week. And just to be completely transparent, I think we wrestled a bit with the language on this piece, like help us create your custom plan. There may be some different phrase that we could use there that might be, I don't know, it might feel like it's a better fit for you, but we can talk about that. Then the third step is get market traction. The explanation is our embedded team will help you revitalize sales in 4 weeks, guaranteed.
Yeah, that sounds accurate. I mean, all of our customers generally experience some level of traction lift within that 4-week period. Yeah. Yep.
So I think one thing with these steps, I think it's easy to put it in your terms. So what are you doing as Traction Labs, right? So I think that's what we're going back and forth. It was like, well, second step is we're creating a plan for them, or, but I think you need to frame it as like, what does this customer have to do, right? That's what they're evaluating when they see this on their website. It's like, what do I have to do like to get the results I'm hoping for? So framing in that way of them helping create the plan, co-creating in a lab, in the Traction Lab, I think gives them like, okay, I can do that, right? I can wrap my head around this, even though it's probably more complicated.
Yes.
We got to go through all these things. We got to evaluate all these things, but trying to simplify it down in terms they can wrap their head around, I think is the key point of a simple plan like this.
I love that you brought that up, because it's so easy to kind of revert back to we're the hero. The customer is the hero. You're the guide.
Yeah.
So what they're looking for is a plan that they can follow that's going to result in success instead of failure. And if the plan is something that you're doing, there's a disconnect that happens.
Yeah.
So they schedule a meeting, they help you create a custom plan, and then they get market traction.
That's it.
Now, there's probably 100 other things they need to do that could be woven within that, but people can't generally remember more than 3 things. And so they're just looking at first blush to ensure they know generally what process they're going to be going through with you. If this feels right to them, they're going to be more inclined to take that first step. And so we call that a call to action. The direct call to action here would be step 1, schedule a meeting now. The transitional call to action is read success stories. This could become a lead magnet if you had them put in their email in order to download something, but it can initially be as simple as you pointing them to some place on your website that allows them to see some of the success. And then again, the direct call to action would be embedded so that they're gently guided to what they need to do, because people want to be generally guided. Like they
me what I
don't want
need
to
to
have
do.
to figure it out themselves. And if there's 50 things that they need to do, they're going to get overwhelmed and go somewhere else.
I think that's another thing, a mistake a lot of people make, especially on their website, is like, well, I got to give them multiple options in case, depending on where they're at, right? And I think it's that choose your own adventure idea that I think is like, well, I don't really know what I should do, right? And it again causes that confusion to be like, I'll come up with something else. This seems complicated, right?
Yeah.
And so narrowing it down, focusing that, even with helping guide them to the right decision, I think is helpful for them. One thing I think that came out in the discussion, we put in that, like, sales in 4 weeks guaranteed. Talk a little bit about that. I know that came out of like, wait, we could actually do this, guarantee this. Like, that's a big, big offer. And so talk a little bit about that in the session that kind of
I think that was something that you guys threw out there, is like, is that something you could guarantee? We've never done a guarantee before, but it was like, can you talk to me a little bit about your Traction Labs and how you actually do that? So we had a discussion on that, and really generally we've seen in the first 4 weeks, you can get some level of traction. Now, the definition of traction, that's what we discussed a little bit too, is what does traction actually mean? Most people that's sales, most people it's that. But generally, even if we can't get a sale in the first 4 weeks, we're getting some kind of market signal that says directionally where we have some level of confidence we're increasing. Which is why they're engaging us in the first place, right? In the brand script, we're saying here that they're frustrated. They tried 10 different things and they don't know what to do, and they're kind of like, and that brings clarity. Within 4 weeks, we can get some level of clarity. So, that was the discussion. It was good.
That's great. And that's where we could even look at, are you really guaranteeing revitalized sales, or, what are you guaranteeing? So that's some of that wordsmithing you can figure out, like actually seeing traction, gaining clarity, whatever that you want to put in there to make sure it's clear and you're not offering something that you can't guarantee.
Yes. So I think you guys were they can achieve,
starting to get into that.
That's right. So normally what we do in reviewing the rough draft of the brand script is we'll go through the entire thing. So we're going to talk next about success and failure and identity transformation. And then after we look at those, we're going to take a pause and step back and allow you to share feedback on the entire brand script, or invite you to say what is working, what needs to be tweaked. What we'll do is we just highlight those points and then we go back and refine them. So the success that they can achieve if they take action and follow that plan looks like this: increased revenue and valuation with repeatable growth engine in place, regained confidence and excitement, refreshed team, no more wasting time and energy on a plan that isn't working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yep. It's like putting on glasses and then feeling like, hey, I know where we're at. Yeah.
It's clear.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we've embedded in here is they've kind of lost confidence in their team, right? Like, and I think that's a big piece of this, and trying to bring that back and even maybe it's regained confidence and excitement in a refreshed team, right? Like whether that's your team coming in or, I think, or their current team, I think figuring out how to weave that in, because I think you mentioned that too, is like, they might just say, you guys do it for us, right? And have that embedded team. So figuring out, making sure that comes across too.
And I think the challenge is, if I were to, this is where it's like you cut off some of the fat, but like, this is where our discussion about the team, there's a difference between, if there's a new product, there's a new thing, the market has shifted. What you really need is you need an early stage team that is agile enough to get into sales conversations and marketing conversations to go, everything's a hypothesis until proven. That is a far different kind of person that says, we've already figured out how we're selling, what we're selling, like it's the right thing. We just need to scale it. And so oftentimes when we engage with these teams, they've built a team that can scale, but they now need to switch gears and go back to where they're almost starting and saying, which is difficult because that right team that was there is no longer right. So how do you do that?
Part of that evaluation, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Do they even have the skills to work this way?
That's right.
In a startup mentality, right? Yeah. In an enterprise situation. Yeah.
Yep.
So the reality of failure, if we don't talk about that, it demotivates people from for moving forward. So we never want to use the talking about failure as a point of manipulation. It's simply fact. Like, this is the reality if you do nothing. And that reality is that they will waste more time, energy, and money on efforts that aren't working. And we put the word insanity in there to signal the definition of insanity.
Yes.
The other thing is, your team is going to continue to be frustrated. And you, as the CEO, will continue to have insecurity, and you'll probably start losing the board's confidence.
Yeah.
The board wants revenue.
Yes.
If things aren't selling, tensions start to emerge.
Yes.
That's not
it's on
going.
you.
That's not going away.
Yes.
If you wait another month or another quarter in order to start addressing this, you might be out of a job.
Yeah.
And we don't want to put too much fear, again, into this, but we do want to point out that reality that the likelihood of losing the board's confidence is real.
Yeah.
And I think it's, another thing that people miss is that potential failure in their messaging, or, it doesn't have to be the front and center, but at certain points in the process when you're communicating, like, hey, this is at risk, right? Like, if you don't act now, and I think it also points to your understanding of the situation too. So they get more of that empathy. Like, yeah, we get it. You're up against it.
Yes.
We can help now.
That's right.
and creating that urgency to drive action, really, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Spot on.
So something magical happens for someone who goes through this process and meets with a guide that can truly help them, goes through the plan, and experiences success. They're not the same person that they were at the beginning of the story. We see that in any love story or any movie that you watch. You see the main character, transform. And so when we look at what transformation can happen here, we realize that at the beginning of the story is a frustrated visionary. At the end of this story is a growth driver. It's somebody who isn't just seeing a desirable future, but driving the company toward that with growth. Mm-hmm. So the aspirational identity of the character, it's incredibly important to realize you are talking with somebody who wants to be a growth driver. And so when you think about how you're talking to that character, you need to realize that is the deeper aspiration that exists underneath what they want.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that human level, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are still people at the end of the day. And they are looking for something even beyond just that sales. They want something from a career standpoint, right? They're evaluating that through this process. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, let's step back, give you a moment to just look over this whole thing. There's certainly going to be things that can be tweaked. There's probably some things in here that maybe elicit maybe another aha, or maybe something that you want to remember, something that really jumped out to you. So when you look over this, what are those things that jump out? Things that need to be changed or tweaked? Those things that really deeply resonate. As you're thinking about that, I'll just share with the listeners how important not just having a powerful brand script is, but the process of going through a brand script session. It allows for an individual or a team that is wrestling with these things to grapple with these, to recognize and share with each other, with us, insights that they're having. And what ends up happening is the people involved in doing this brand script end up becoming more aligned, which is critical, because if the team is using marketing just to come up with messaging that's disconnected from their own experience and their own articulation of what the business does, your brand gets muddied. Yeah. Our people are the ones who most often are bearing the message. And so to have this level of alignment with a team of people, it's imperative, and it doesn't just happen. It requires coming together around this, wrestling it out together, and then coming to some conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some of my initial feedback is that it's like I began is seeing it now, and I said this before I saw it, that the finalized brand script is a lot of the fat has been trimmed, right? Which makes it much tighter. But then there's this entrepreneur side of me that always fights, right? Yeah. So like, wait a minute, like a product isn't selling. We also do services too, right? So, so that's where, those are some things that, you kind of have to fight a little bit and wrestle with to go, well, how much is that going to matter? How much is that going to, so that's the first thing that comes to my mind. But then also looking at the brand script, I think visually again, I think it reemphasizes what you guys mentioned, which is like, actually, you look at half of it is not about us. Like half of the whole page, it's like half of the page is like about the actual character of the story, which is your customer, right? So it's spending, and I would say we often try and get into the mindset of a customer, but oftentimes we quickly leap to, well, because of that, here's a 5-step plan, like you mentioned. Right. So I think that's also, very, very good, so, and then I think other than that, I mean, in terms of a draft there's some nuance of how we phrase things. And I think that it'd just be some tweaking, but I don't think it's worth probably going over all of those details. Yeah. It's more of small tweaks like we do within Traction Labs. We actually do actual labs. One of them is like a venture lab or a growth lab. And it's like, how do you, so we use the language lab a lot, so schedule time to get your lab scheduled and stuff. So it's like, but those are all very small nuances.
Yep.
So that's great.
So generally when we're doing a brand script review, we'll have our pencils out and we're like writing things down. For the sake of the audio, we're not going to be scratching on the table, but we are picking up some of these things, and
it's recorded.
It's recorded. I think it will be important for us, like especially after we read the brand script narrative, to get really clear on what are those adjustments, and we'll do that with you probably outside of this conversation. But one of the things you mentioned is sometimes it's not just a product; it's a service that they're selling. What percent would be product versus service?
Yeah, I would say it's probably 75% is product.
Okay.
And 25% is service. Yep. Yeah.
So there's two different directions that you can go on this. One is to change the word product to offering.
Yeah.
The benefit of that is you're not isolating people who are providing a service. You're actually speaking to them as well.
Yes.
The downside of that is
you're more isolating the product people.
You're isolating the product people.
Yeah.
And the way that you're talking about yourself becomes a little bit more obscured.
Diluted. Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's the challenge. Yes. Is how do you, because then you find yourself building assets and websites that are so generic that no one resonates with it. But you try to meet everyone where they're at. And it's like, you realizing you can't meet every single person where they're at. So who specifically are you going to meet where they're at?
I think the other way to address this is through your case studies too. So if you're highlighting different ways you've solved these problems in different nuances, I think that's another way to like help them understand, oh, wow, this applies to this area too. So if they're going through that, they can see, oh, they solve this for this situation or this market, right? You don't have to list them all.
Yes.
You can start to validate that through those case studies.
A question we get all the time too is, when you use the word product is it a physical product or is it digital, right? So then it's like, well, it's both. Yep. And then it's like percentage wise, we mostly do digital, but like there are a percentage that is physical. And so then I think what you just stated of putting in the case studies makes a lot of sense, where it's like, well, people then can see, oh, they do physical products and they do digital products. That makes sense.
I think the other opportunity you have when we get into this with SEO and all that is like put a FAQ
Yeah.
you know, to answer some of these specific questions that are in the mind. And it not just helps with the customer understanding it, but it helps with your search. It helps with all that stuff when you're answering those specific questions that people have. It can be buried, it can be hidden, but if it's there, if they need it, right? So that's another way to, I think, dress some of these, that the nuances, or, you know, when you say product, what do you mean? You know, like, it doesn't have to change your message, but it can be addressed in different ways. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
The key is when you're speaking your ideal customer's language, they know that you're speaking to them directly.
Yeah. Yep.
That's extremely appealing.
Yep.
If I'm a CEO of a product company, I'm going to want to know that the help that I'm getting understands product companies.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's kind of like someone saying, "Hey, I'm a general contractor," and your HVAC breaks down, and you're like, "I don't actually look for a general contractor. I literally look for an HVAC company." Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Let's do the narrative.
Let's do the narrative. So the narrative, the brand script narrative, again, is tying all of these pieces together into a cohesive whole. And I'm going to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as we're looking at the narrative, it's very clear who you're speaking with. So it goes like this. You've built a strong product and assembled a talented team, but the numbers don't reflect it. You need to increase revenue, but the market isn't responding. And despite everyone's effort, sales just aren't where they should be. You're not alone, and you're not wrong to feel desperately frustrated or even angry. It shouldn't be this hard to get the sales you need. At Traction Labs, we get how scary it can be not to get the sales you need, but not know why. That's why our team, led by Josh Barker and fueled by Silicon Valley Insights, offers a proven cross-industry approach that establishes sales momentum in as little as 4 weeks. The steps to regaining your traction are simple. First, schedule a meeting. Let's grab lunch and talk right away. Second, help us create your custom plan. We'll have it ready within a week. Third, get market traction. Our embedded team will help you revitalize sales in 4 weeks, guaranteed. You've already invested time, talent, and money. Don't keep wasting it on strategies that aren't working. Schedule a meeting now. Need more motivation? Read our success stories to see how we've helped frustrated visionaries become confident growth drivers again. With the Traction team around you, you can increase revenue and valuation, put a repeatable growth engine in place, re-energize your team and your leadership, and finally lead your product to the place in the market it deserves to hold. Stop searching for sales solutions and trying strategies that just don't work. Start leveraging a proven approach by talking with us today. You're closer to traction than you think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I think that one of the things that, you know, my mind just goes to certain things in the narrative. Obviously, if we talk about, I'll pause for a second. We'll go back to saying, well, here's a 5-step thing. Here's the 5 things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, overall, we're almost there, you know, with a brand story.
Yep.
Because I can feel, you know, when I'm thinking and you're reading through this, what I'm thinking of is I'm thinking of customers, you know, like that. Will they look at themselves in this?
Right.
You know, and they're like, oh, yes.
Nod your head.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of our customers would nod themselves yes. And so then there's also the nuanced customers I almost have to like discard to be like, okay, this was a one-off situation. That's not a target that we would target normally, right? So I think there's some of that as well.
And part of it is testing it.
With
Yes.
customers. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You know, the small little ads would be things like, you know, their third paragraph where it says, that's why our team led by Josh Barker and fueled by Silicon Valley Insights. One of the things that we learned was we would lean into my experience in Silicon Valley, but because our audience is more corporates, they also want to know that you can navigate corporate culture and corporate and you can apply that. So
That's good.
oftentimes we've used the mix because my past pre-Silicon Valley was KPMG. And so like leaning into the combination of those two so that people could
Strengthens
understand,
it.
to be like,
that's great.
oh, he gets corporate, but he can bring the Silicon Valley mindset.
Yeah.
Got it.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
So that's good feedback.
So one of the things that I want to make sure you understand, but also our audience, is that this brand script narrative is not intended to be memorized.
Yeah.
It's intended to...
I already did, by the way.
Oh, that's amazing.
Wow.
Like we talked at the beginning, I'm a very good memorizer.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
What it intends to do is really prove that each of the components in the brand script can be put together in a way that results in a cohesive story. I think some of the keys are going to be, does this story sound like your voice? And that's something I would want you to reflect on before we come back with a polished brand script for you. Are there ways of you saying things that would be more authentic to you?
Like the inclusion of labs, right? Like it's
right.
just part of who we are, right? So how do we work that in? Yeah.
Or even like tone of voice? Like
Yeah.
is there does this fit the tone that you're going for? Because here's the thing. Somebody is going to, based on their interaction of you, they're going to call. And it's imperative that when they start talking with you, they're not confused.
It's not a disconnect.
That's right. And so I would even point to the schedule the meeting part. During the brand script session with you, we asked you, what is a phrase that you typically say? And you say, well, I just say, let's grab lunch and talk right away. So using that, embedding phrases, ways of saying things, cultural tone, that's important as well. But at the end of the day, you're not copying and pasting this narrative into your website.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're recognizing how this story is told so that you and your team or anybody who's communicating about your business understands that main story that leads to deeper conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to treat it as more of a story, right? Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a story to be told. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've seen where even in like a social media content strategy, right? You're taking pieces of this story that fit into the bigger narrative, and it gives you that like, oh, okay, I'm talking in this scenario. I'm going to hit on this point here for our customers so they're ready to hear it, right? So you're taking elements of it.
Yeah.
But if you step back, it's still that overall story. So you don't have to tell the whole story every time at every place, but you can see the pieces and how they fit together then. It's cohesive.
Yes.
It's a great lead into the next section. Taking each of the components gives you the complete story. But if you want to boil this down, there's 3 components of the story that will give you a one-liner. So when we talk about a one-liner, what we're basically saying is, if you can convey to your audience that you get the problem, you give a solution, and you offer success, that is enough for them to generally understand what it is that you do and why it matters to them.
Yeah.
So in your case, when we take those 3 components, the product or the problem, the solution, and the success, it reads like this. When your product isn't selling, we use proven strategies to help you establish sales momentum in as little as 4 weeks, so you can get the revenue you need. So when the product isn't selling is the problem. We use proven strategies to help you establish sales momentum in as little as 4 weeks is the solution. What they can expect as a result is that they get the revenue they need.
Yeah, that's great.
So it's what do you do?
Yes, exactly. It's the elevator pitch. Yeah.
It's not a tagline,
Yes.
It's just simplifying it. Like, and I think, again, this doesn't need to be memorized either. It's like, oh, well, what's the problem? What's the solution? What's success, right? Like just that framework and having your team start to understand that, then it brings that consistency, alignment of like, oh yeah, this is what we do at the end of the day, right? There's a lot more complexity as we've seen.
Totally.
But if we can help whittle it down to that, I think it goes a long way, and people understanding it quickly, right? And looking for ways to communicate it at that level,
Yes,
as often as you can.
the one thing that, and I love it. I think the one thing that I think of when I think of the story, now that I'm kind of getting a zoomed out, because this is like the 50,000
yeah.
foot, right?
Yes.
And then you go down to each
Yep,
layer.
yep.
We almost went in reverse, like
Right.
details, less details, and like high level. So when I look at like something like this, as I'm seeing the full picture now, is the challenge I think I'll have is to just to think through is when your product isn't selling, the problem. A lot of times we will not only be engaged when a product isn't selling, that's a commonplace, but it's also at the start of a new product. So it's because that's actually the most ideal place for us to plug in so they can avoid all of the mistakes that companies like this do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
So it might not even be in market yet, you're saying, right?
So yeah, so and we've engaged with a lot of companies at the very start, and so that's where it's like how do you incorporate that? That's a little bit more tricky. I feel like of how do you nuance that, but overall, this is solid.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I think, we've talked about different ways you can use it, but I wanted to get your thoughts on like, okay, now that you have this kind of, how do you see it helping you communicate on a website or in, on different platforms? How do you imagine, kind of using this or sharing it with your team? Just talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple different things is going back to, I think the number one takeaway would be like the fat, trimming the fat off, right? Because I think if you were to throw this in front of other team members as well, like they might say, well, what about this customer? What about that customer? What about this? What about that? And you have to almost, rein it in and say, well, this is the normal Rails path of like, hey, there's
always going to be exceptions, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so just saying, hey, if we're adding Rails to what we do and making it clear, a lot of times by making it clear, you have to disclude people and hyper include people. And so like, who do we want to like hyper focus on and
Who's
include?
your ideal customer?
Yes. Yep. So I think that's one really positive thing. And I think out of a conversation with our team as well, I think the nice thing about this, like you mentioned, would be having our team, and I've talked about this because we actually, interestingly enough, some of our process ends up being when we're installed into a new team and we're helping with growth, we've literally done the exercise of like, let's take the salespeople and literally ask them to sell us in 3 to 5 minutes.
Pitch it to us.
Yep,
Right? Yeah.
individually behind closed doors to see if they can actually articulate the same thing, right? And most teams that don't have traction, wildly different.
Yep.
And so and I think this really reemphasizes the importance of that. That's like, what is the unifying message your team can understand and bring to market so that you're all in alignment of what is the value proposition, what is the problem you're solving, the solution, and then what is the success that they can look to achieve.
Yeah. We had that with a team, a sales team. We were going through this process where we did multiple brand scripts for them. We did a core customer, their direct to customer, but we also did a wholesale buyer brand script. And it was interesting talking to the sales folks. I'm like, we talk like this in generalities, right? We're all kind of talking the same thing, but it's all different.
Yeah.
And so each customer has a different perspective of who you are as a brand, right? And what they can expect and what setting those expectations. And so I think it just kind of like, you captured what we're all trying to say in different ways, but now we can be aligned and that those customers can have a clear picture of who we are as a brand and what we're offering, what we're promising to them. So I think it's a powerful tool just by going through the process even.
Yes.
We've talked earlier in this session about how important it is to test this, test it in the market, but also test it with the team. Mm-hmm. Brand scripts are not designed to like be set in stone. The brand scripts are designed to provide clarity and allow you to wrestle it out and continue to refine based on ahas, learnings, customer insights. In your case, we just did the brand script session with you. And so I think one of the things I would encourage you to do is bring this to your team and see how they're reacting. One of the beautiful things is that you'll be able to know immediately what part of the brand script component they're pushing up against. And then you can ask questions like, well, is there a more compelling summary of this? Or is there a different like feeling that you think is more compelling, or want that you think is more compelling? At the end of the day, involving them in that process will not only help you refine this in a way that really gets it, but it will help them basically overcome their objections. We all need objection handlers, oftentimes inwardly, because if they're to put this out into the world, they need to do it without hesitation. And giving them that opportunity to press into it, challenge it, put forward their ideas. Patrick Lencioni in 5 Dysfunctions of a Team talks about how important it is to create an environment in your team where everyone has permission to be able to express their unfiltered ideas.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, then they're not going to buy in to what they need to do together.
Completely agree. Yeah, that was exactly where my mind was, is that the only way that I'd want to share this with the team and then basically invite them into the process, right? So rather than, saying, hey,
here you go,
this is how we're going to be talking about ourselves. And it's like, well, I think
let me know how it goes.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think everyone, as a CEO, like you want to have that. You hired your team for a reason, right? You trust them to say, what is missing, So I think that's a great next step, is to just ask the team, what do they think, and give refinements and tweaks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
I think we recognize, working with a variety of different clients, how each team has specific ways of doing things. And if you're out there listening, watching, and are wondering, is this an approach that could work for us? I would just want to assure you that we're trying to listen very carefully to what the team needs related to the dynamics or makeup, and to adapt some of this brand script session in order to accommodate the realities that you're experiencing. So in your case, I would say it's probably going to be a good thing, maybe before we make some final revisions of this, to give you that opportunity to share it with your team. And then we can connect again, make any of those notes, and then be able to present back to you something that you and your team is going to feel really good about.
It's great. Will do. Awesome. I will do that. And do you guys often, just for those that are listening, I know you guys did the brand script just with me, but do you guys do it with a team, like multiple team members?
Yeah, absolutely. It just depends on the situation and who is a valuable, not to say that, anybody on your team wasn't valuable, but who you thought needed to speak into this.
Yes.
And I think it kind of depends on the team and what is the right fidelity. I think we've gone through it with, one person CEO or maybe 2, and then they brought it to the broader team like you're doing. Or they'll bring them in. We had 8 or 10 in the conversation with the sales team, because they think they need to, this is theirs. They're going to have to own this. So let's bring them in at the right moment and then help them, speak into it so they can feel ownership in it going forward. So yeah, definitely it works at different levels and depending on the team and where it needs to be.
Cool.
Well, yeah.
So if you're feeling frustrated with your marketing and not sure if the message is really connecting with your audience, we would love to talk with you. A brand script session would be a great way for you to begin wrestling through what that disconnect is. And again, you can find us online at gowithhuman.com.
Thanks, Josh. I know you're in the process of updating the site. You can be welcome to share it and drive people where they can learn more about Traction Labs and City Innovation.
Yeah, City Innovations can be found at cityinnovations.com. So we're a venture studio that rolled out Traction Labs. You can visit TractionLabs.city to find more information about Traction Labs.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Josh, for coming on and being a part of this, being willing to go through this session.
This was great.
React in real time with us. So
awesome. We really loved it, and we hope you loved it too. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.